Welcome to the Onstage Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Robert. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Onstage Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Robert. So it's, as I was talking to our special guests today, apparently they don't have the warm weather that we have, but they eventually will. Here we have 24, 25 degree weather. It's almost summer out. Actually, it is summer out, even though summer doesn't officially begin until another month, but I'm pretty happy about just the weather we have. I'm tired of the snow, and at the moment I'm just happy that we're live and just been able to go get sort of over this COVID thing. Even though it's still out there, we can just go back to some sort of normal. But today we have a special guest, rock and roll musician Rich Chambers. Can't wait. And what we're going to do is we are going to show you some a montage that I have created to let you know exactly what he does. So here we go.
What do I have to do? I wonder, what will I say? I wonder, what am I gonna do? I wonder, why am I still in love with you? She was just 17, and you know what I mean. And the way she looked was way beyond compare. So how could I dance with another? Oh, when I saw her standing there. But I was dreaming long ago, and they told me I had to let it go. It was born to the innocence of a youthful mind. Summer looks so good on you. The sunshine in your smile, it comes through.
Well, there we go. Rich Chambers. Let's bring him up now. Hello, Rich. How are you?
Good, Chris. How you doing? Hey, that's cool. I hadn't seen that montage. That's kind of neat. I like it.
Montages. I really, really love montage. I like taking people's music videos and putting them all together to give at least a minute worth to kind of wet people's whistle. And then all they have to do, if they want to see the full video, just go to the YouTube description and they can just watch it from YouTube itself. So
That's cool. It's cool to see it.
Yeah, I like it too. And I also wanted to put the I saw her standing there, Beatles cover there as well to make sure, because I think you said that the CD behind you is actually for that single.
No, sorry, it wasn't. That was my first one I released about 10 to 12 years ago. I've actually since pulled it. You can't get that anywhere. So it's a collector's item for sure.
You pulled it. Why did you do that?
There's one song still existing. Well, in 12 years, I've become that much better a producer. And I couldn't leave it out there with what I thought in my mind was, all us musicians are kind of try to be perfectionists at heart, and perfect can't be attained. But I knew I could do a heck of a lot better production-wise because I was a bit of a neophyte producer when I did that album.
Well,
so
a lot of people
got 10, 12 more years of producing under my belt, so I can, I feel a little more comfortable with the stuff I release now.
Yeah, well, a lot of musicians are releasing their old stuff and redoing their old stuff, and many people are releasing cover versions of some older bands, which actually are, to tell you the truth, Rich, better versions than the original cover versions.
Some are, and I had a great review the other day. A reviewer talked about, I saw her standing there and said, I actually kind of like Rich's version better than the original. It was one of the best compliments I ever gotten. Not that I sound better than the Beatles, not a chance, but I just put a different type of energy and different spin on it that this reviewer really liked.
Yeah, well, Rich, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
This is a safe place where we can get to know our guest and really want to know you and what makes you the person who you are today. So tell us, Rich, something interesting about yourself. Most people don't know a little bit about yourself. Who is Rich Chambers?
Well, I'll tell you a neat bit of trivia. The only class I've ever failed in school and university is band 11. If you can believe that. I actually failed band 11. And it's because my teacher at the time said, okay, Rich, you just have to show up for this final exam, and I slept in. And so that's high school. I got, and I finished with a master's degree and did a thesis on Beethoven. And so, but band 11, I failed. There's one bit of neat trivia. But my love for music started when I was a small kid. Like a lot of musicians, it started as a little kid. My dad played guitar, and I can remember him pulling out guitars for family events, Christmas time, and things like that. And I was fascinated with what he was doing. I had my little toy Mickey Mouse guitar, and I'd be strumming next to him, and we'd be singing Christmas songs together. And I have one cool picture. I got to post it on my socials of me looking at my dad, and I was 4 years old on Christmas Eve in my Christmas PJs with a big Santa Claus on, smiling as I played my Mickey Mouse guitar, and he's playing away, smiling at me. It's a cool thing. But even more so than that, I can remember same time, about 5 or 6 years old, and I remember sitting with him, silently watching him while he sat next to the record player, dropped the needle on the record, and would figure out the chords for songs and write down the lyrics. And I was absolutely fascinated with this. It might have been the only time when I was 5 years old I actually sat still for more than 2 minutes. And I realized as I got older and started playing guitar myself when I was 10, 11, 12, I enjoyed it. But music took off for me when I was 14 years old and wrote my first song, my first pop song. And that was it. I was absolutely completely sold. I thought, this is what I'm meant to do, is write music. So often people say, you love guitar? Sure, I love guitar. I love singing, but they're merely the tools. For me, the huge passions in the songwriting. I love writing songs.
Yeah, it's so passionate when you sing. It's so like microphone. And one of the older microphones too, from the 50s and 60s, I noticed a lot of bands and a lot of musicians and singers use that old microphone.
Yeah, it suits my style. So my videographer came up with it. He said, Rich, you're half vintage, half modern. So we got to put a little bit of vintage into your videos. And he pulled out the old microphone. And they do sound wonderful. They have a unique sound, and there's no question. These old tube microphones, and they're pretty cool. And it's the reason why they're sought after, so many of the old ones. The one we're using is a replica. Unfortunately, it's not an original. But
well, if it is the original, would they be worth a lot?
I don't know a lot about microphones. There are people that fall them like crazy. As far as I know, they are quite pricey. Few $1,000s, I believe, to get one of those old vintage ones, maybe even more.
Is the sound better than the regular option?
It's so subjective question, Chris, because better, I mean, it's just different. Those older microphones have a certain sort of warmth and fatness to them that a lot of people say the newer microphones can't get. I agree and disagree both. I think it's like many things, many tastes in music, so much is subjective. What sound does a person like? What guitar they like? What drums they like to play? I mean, it's very subjective. Nothing's right or wrong. It's just what does a person like better?
Well, that's really interesting. So why did you want to become a musician? What was the first song you ever sang before you said, Mommy, I want to be a musician?
The first song I could ever play on guitar that was any half decent, it sounded like the actual song, was the Beatles' Day Tripper. I learned that one riff and I played it over and over. I think I drove my mom nuts. I played that one riff over and over again. And the reason why I covered I Saw Her Standing There is it was one of the first songs I ever played and sang in a band. And huge Beatle fan. I was a young, impressionable kid when John Lennon was shot. And that sort of introduced me and probably a whole other generation of people, the young kids that didn't know who the Beatles were. And I discovered there's a lot of great music there. And sort of inspired me a few years later to pick up the guitar along with picking up things from my dad. And I became a big Beatles fan. And then I branched out from there. I mean, people often say, oh, you love the Beatles. Yes, I do. But there's so many different styles of music that I enjoy too. I discovered B.B. King playing guitar, and I thought, this is one of the greatest guitar players I've ever heard. Oh. And I discovered, I realized how much I'd listened to my grandparents and their old Dean Martin 8-track tapes. And I realized how much I loved Dean Martin, Sinatra, and the Rat Pack. I mean, I love that stuff. So I have these huge influences, which I'm very thankful for. I was introduced to a lot of music as a young kid. My mom was a huge Waylon Jennings fan. And as an adult, I love Waylon Jennings. So I have all these different influences, which I'm very thankful for.
Were you ever into Steve Martin and his banjo playing and his singing?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's an amazing banjo player. Like people don't realize he's known as a comedian, but that guy's an absolutely amazing banjo player.
Amazing. Yeah. I sort of like his music, and I'm tempted to buy one of his albums, even though I like his comedian, but I don't know. I'll try to get him on my podcast at one point.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
No, I've heard some of the music that him and his band's done, and it's something else. People will be blown away by how good he is.
Well, thank you very much, Rich, for telling us about that thing that we don't know about you. But can you tell us what that is behind you? Like, can you Is that
Oh,
part of your music or
some of the things behind me, yeah.
your
Up,
PhD?
let's see, above there. That would be, let's go that way. That's my certificate for music from college. That's my Bachelor of Arts in English, and that's my further over is my the one of the far side, the far left that you're looking at would be my Masters of Humanities, and below all that is the first commercial CD I released around 2010. It was.
Yeah, I can't. Is that in that one? What was the name of that one?
I call it Last Train to Clarksville. I did a cover of the Monkees song because I'm a huge Monkees fan. Love the Monkees.
Wow. Now you were mentioning to me earlier about one that you can't get anymore. Was that one there?
That's the one. That's the one because that's
I
the
don't
one
know.
where I released it, and then when in the last 3 or 4 years, and I did a huge series when I had my sort of midlife crisis of music epiphany, and I said I'm going to go after music hardcore. I decided to pull out all my previous music, which in my opinion was substandard produced. It probably wasn't, but we're always our own worst critic. But I wasn't happy with it, so I pulled it off all the platforms and then started re-releasing newly produced music about 2 years ago.
I want to hear that cover version of yours. I hope that you will release at some point.
Last Train to Clarksville, I will. It just needs all this. All the music was there. I just was not that good a producer when I did it, so I'm going to remix it, remaster it, and get it all out there. Because I'm a huge, massive Monkees fan. I have a funny story, actually. When I was growing up as a kid, I was watching the Monkees in syndicated reruns. And I love them. And Last Train to Clarksville was the first song that I heard from them. And I do a version of Stepping Stone that I love that track as well. But I can remember my mom had these old albums. And I found the Hard Day's Night album. And I pulled it out. I took it to my mom and I said, Mom, who are these guys copying the Monkees? I always thought that was quite funny that as a young kid, because I first saw the Monkees, I thought the Beatles were copying the Monkees. Little did I know, it's the other way around. But
Yeah.
Anyway, regardless, I mean, the Monkees were an amazing phenomenon, and they sort of started the whole notion of what I call bubblegum pop.
Yeah.
Many bands came out after that. The Partridge Family, the Bay City Rollers, even the Village People had that sort of bubblegum pop to them. And more recently, things like Hannah Montana and that sort of thing all kind of derived from that idea. Let's manufacture these pop artists to hit a teen audience. And some people say, oh, it's manufactured music. And I say, who cares? It's music. If you like it, who cares? People are still writing these songs and playing this music. So if you like it, you like it.
Yeah, it was a terrible time, though. The lights went out when Davy Jones passed away. Now Peter Tork, and then now Michael Nesmith.
Yeah, I was a little affected by that because I'd grown up watching them on reruns and syndications, and it was sad to watch them pass away.
Yeah, and Michael Nesmith was actually my favorite because I used to listen to the album Elephant Parts, but still, he was always a Monkees to me. And now Mickey Dolenz is still around.
Yeah, and they were underrated musicians. They got the bad end of the stick, in my opinion. Peter Tork and Michael Nesmith were excellent musicians.
They were.
Yeah.
It's too bad they didn't keep it up. It would have been good that if they just didn't suddenly just stop for some reason. It's sort of like Creedence Clearwater Revival. They just suddenly had this infighting, and then they just stopped. And I think one of them today refuses to even sing the songs. And it's like there's always these problems with bands. Now, Rich, you were talking about this band that used to play, and it's not Santa's Rockin' Band. Is there another band that used to play?
No, that's just Santa's Rockin' Band. That's my Instagram handle and Facebook handle, because that's the first single I ever released commercially. Not on the album that you see on the wall behind me, but it was a single that I released commercially. And it was also, so that was the first song that I'd written myself that made it to the commercial airwaves. So I wrote that song on a 30-minute jog in mid-July during a heat wave. Go figure. I don't know why I started. It was really hot, and I hit the road, and I started in my head. I suddenly thought, if Santa, I don't know why I was thinking this. I thought, if Santa had a band, well, Frosty would have to be the bass man, big bass man thumping away. And then, Rudolph would be a drummer for sure. And then the lyrics started going through my head. And as soon as I got home from the jog, I pulled out pen and paper, started writing it all down, and got the guitar out and recorded. It's neat when those things happen. Not always does a song strike you like that, but it hit me, and I sang the whole thing in my head and wrote it in 30 minutes. So it's a very cool moment. So I have a very soft spot for that song, and a soft spot for Christmas music in general, actually.
Yeah, same here. I mean, it's very interesting. Even with myself, when I was young, in my 20s, I wrote 4 songs with a friend of mine, and it was during the summer. And I still have the 4 songs. they were recorded on audio tape
Yeah.
from a Kmart on a tape recorder I got when I was 11 years old.
Love it.
Now I have to go and get them all like reproduced digitally and
Yep.
maybe redone as as you take an old song maybe from Casey and the Sunshine Band and like Saturday Night or whatever, and then update it with some new cool lyrics. Like, and if you just update it with lyrics for today's word, like you can't use certain words today that you could use back then. You just add it. But I'm thinking of one song I want to actually release as my very first release called Miracles. So, but that's going to take a while for me to literally get people together. And if you're out there, and before I say anything else, please hit that subscribe button for more content and with more musicians in the future, and be awesome. And now back to what I wanted to say. If anybody out there wants to help me write a song, get it out there, let me know. But oh, Rich, I also see something to your left shoulder there.
Oh, yes.
A magazine?
I got to bring this closer. This is I love this. Oh, it's stuck in the wall. I didn't realize I had it stuck on the wall. It's my love of Star Trek. It's a picture of Captain Kirk and the Gorn. And it's set up as like a fight bill, like Brawn versus Brain. Who will win the contest? So,
is that a Starlog magazine?
Pardon me?
Is that a Starlog magazine?
No, it's just a plaque.
I have the first Starlog magazine. It's worth like $400.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit of a sci-fi nerd. I love Star Trek and Star Wars and all that stuff.
Yeah, me too. It's so great. And maybe you eventually should start writing a cover for the Star Wars or cover, Star Trek cover. Like I can imagine you taking the guitar and say, "Space, the final frontier."
I don't know. Hasn't William Shatner done enough with singing "Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds" and stuff like that?
He doesn't sing; he just speaks it.
Kind of talks it, yeah.
In the sky with diamonds.
Yeah.
But Rich, I love how you brought some rock and roll guitars with you. Woo!
Yes.
So tell us what type of electric guitars you have there. Are they all Peeve?
I miss the guitar. So much music is getting away from the guitar right now. My primary guitar that you see in all my videos is a Peeve Telecaster. Mm-hmm. And Peeve doesn't make it anymore, which is a shame. It was a brilliant guitar. I remember picking it up in the mid-90s, falling in love with it instantly. And I was a university student with very little money, but buying it anyway, even though I didn't have the money, because I absolutely fell in love with it. And I've never picked up any Telecaster that plays as well as this Peeve. I've tried lots of Fenders. I mean, they're nice, but nothing plays like this one Peeve Telecaster. And I've only seen one of it ever, and I bought it. So Peeve, I don't know why you stopped making these Telecasters. They're great instruments. And that is my main kind of solo guitar. I got an old Silvertone replica for any guitar buffs out there that knows that the Silvertone was released out of Sears in the early 60s. And they were cheap, inexpensive guitars, but they had extremely unique sounds. And I bought a replica one a couple of years ago that I'm using more often than I actually realize how many times I'm using this stuff, because it gets such a cool rock and roll sound to it. And I have a couple of the guitars that I use. I have right behind me here, I have a Epiphone Casino.
That's
right
beautiful.
There.
Wow.
It's a nice guitar. And that's my most recent purchase. And so I got about 5 or 6 different electric guitars. And most guitar players will tell you that it's never enough.
That's amazing. I was into electric guitars because my older brother once, I think when we were younger, we have this Toronto National Exhibition, and I believe he won it. So we had this electric guitar, and I used to take it and pretend I was somebody. And so I like electric guitars. And I know there's so many different brands, like Gibson, Taylor, there's Peeve, you name it. And have you ever heard of the Jim Redgate guitar?
No, can't say I have.
Jim Redgate is a creator of customized acoustic guitars.
Okay.
And he makes one at a time. And if you can buy one, then he signs it for you. And
that's kind of cool.
Yeah. So what is it, Rich, about the guitar that you like? Is it the riff, the sound, the vibration, the way it feels?
Well, most guitar players will tell you. I saw an interview with Springsteen once, and he pulled out his sort of signature Telecaster guitar that he pictured on Born to Run.
Wow.
And he had the original one with him. And he said, "This feels like my arm." He says, "It just feels like an extension of my arm." And most guitar players will tell you that it almost feels like an extension of their body because so they play it so much, it becomes such a part of them. And I just I'll pick up the guitar and just strum chords because I absolutely love the sound. A nicely tuned guitar is I love the sound. What a Waylon Jennings line, he says, the only two things in life worth living are guitars tuned good and firm feeling women, I think is the line. So I totally get it. I mean, I as a guitar player, I pick up and I'll strum a D major chord in the open position. And I just think, oh, that sounds wonderful. I can do that all night and just strum that guitar. So, and that's part of the love of, and rock and roll is all about the guitar. And one of the things when I really started my push a couple of years ago, I want to bring the guitar back to rock and roll. I mean, people talk about rock and roll, and it's not really out there anymore. There's so much computer generated music, lots of great music. Don't get me wrong, but I think we're almost auto tuning ourselves to perfection. Music isn't about perfect. I mean, I purposely sometimes leave in notes where I'm a little flat, or notes I don't quite hit, or guitar lines I mess up a little bit. Why? Because they sound cool. They sound real. Sounds like I really was straining to hit the note and I didn't quite hit it, which is kind of cool. So I'll leave that in. To me, that's rock and roll.
But so what is it about the Peeve guitar that, why did Peeve stop creating that guitar? Because there's several types. There's Accelerator series, the Falcon series, Horizon Unlimited series. There's actually so many different types of guitars.
Yeah, I honestly don't know, Chris. I think my gut feeling is in the 90s, and our guitar makers tried to do replica Strats and Tellies. And the problem is that Fender has such a marketplace on Stratocasters and Telecasters that anybody else has a hard time making them and getting people to buy them. Because Fender makes a great guitar. There's no question. They make awesome guitars. But this one Peeve, maybe I just got really lucky and had the one, diamond in the rough. But it was, I think that series was probably just an underrated series that never got the attention it should have.
Have you ever heard of the Taylor guitar? It's a nice violin type look. It's got the dip in there.
Yep.
It's beautiful.
They're beautiful. Beautiful. I've played a few Taylor acoustics. They're wonderful instruments, no question.
Yeah. The Rain Song, however, some of them are black. Like, I don't know if it's graphite black, but some of them are made.
I think so. I think so.
It's amazing, though, the way they look. And then the Godin has this. It doesn't have that hole in the middle. It has these holes on the side, so like a radiator type thing instead. Yeah. So there's so many. The Seagull, the Ibanez, the Jackson, the Cordova. It's amazing. Yeah, I did.
I have an Ovation acoustic with the odd sound holes. It's not a main sound, or the little small ones through the top of the guitar. There's so many guitars. It's
Now, what about the make of it? Is it like a wood, or is it a graphite, or a?
The Ovation. The top is wood, and the bowl itself, I believe. Oh, gee, there's going to be people that shoot me. You got this wrong. I think it's fiberglass, and it's a rounded bowl. And it's absolutely wonderful for recording live because you put the microphone on it, and you get a consistent sound throughout. So Ovations are very unique sounding guitars, and I'm quite fond of them. I quite like them.
Well, all I know is that Marty McFly blew the speaker out when he tried.
Everybody knows it's a great scene. And then when he does the little Johnny Be Good, Chuck Berry thing at the end with his Gibson. I mean, that's wonderful stuff. A great movie.
All I need is the light preserver and there
you go.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, do you think that Peeve is the best manufacturer of guitars then?
Well, it's my favorite. It's my personal favorite, and it was fairly inexpensive, and it's the best Telecaster I've personally ever played.
Yeah, well, I've heard a few of them play, and I kind of like that. So. Let's find out about the way that you perform. What do you do if your guitar doesn't operate on the day of the performance? Do you have a backup plan? Do you have a guitar ready?
Every musician has backup plans and ready to go. I often, I haven't gigged in a couple of years due to COVID mostly, but I do almost always have a second guitar ready to go. The odd time I didn't, and it'd be major quick string change while the other three in the band covered. I'd have like 3 minutes. They do one song, quickly get the new string on there, and I did that a few times too. And then there's other times where you have equipment, a guitar pedal craps out on you, and I had that go where I've had to quickly find alternative ways to get sounds I want. And it's just kind of, in some ways, it's actually great. When you have those problems happening live, you figure out how to solve them, get past them, and I think you become that much better performing in a musician.
What was the worst thing that happened to you on stage?
The worst thing that happened, we were playing. This is years and years ago. It wasn't a huge gig. It was a dance for a soccer club or soccer league, and there was a few hundred people there. And there's a power failure. Somebody hit the breaker by accident for the stage, and the whole stage went. Oh, we all went dark. And I go, what? And then he quickly flicked them all back on. Oh, I'm sorry. And the power surge blew my amplifier. That sudden power surge, and I lost my amp. I had no amplifier. And so me and the other guitar player in the band, we had to share an amp, and that was strange. We're both using both inputs. We're plugging in and fighting each other for volume, and it was crazy. So that was probably the craziest thing that happened equipment-wise, which isn't that bad. I know people have had a lot worse.
Oh, I was going to think that it was falling off the stage like this one musician did.
Yeah, I've heard of those stories.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I've never gotten out of control at that point where I'm losing track of where I am or what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I ask you what your creative process is when writing music. Do you come up with the lyrics first, melody, or do you just write the lyrics and then you try to work the melody into it? How does that work?
Great question, Chris. I mean, it is many different ways. I talked earlier about when on a 30-minute jog, I had a song hit me. Those are those like wow moments, like bang, I've been struck with some kind of inspiration, and I absolutely love when it happens, but it's a minority of the time. Most of the time, my music and songs will come from about 5% inspiration and 95% work. So what that usually means for me is I'll be thumbing around on the guitar and I'll find a riff or a melody or something that really sticks with me. And then I'll quickly put down, I'll hum whatever I've got in my head. I'll put it down on the computer, and I'll start working through the chord configurations and expanding it from there. So sometimes it starts with a verse, and sometimes it starts with a chorus, and I expand it from there. And it's almost always 90% of the time it's music first. And the tone of the music, whether it be a fast rocker or something slower, more melancholic, will determine where I go with the lyrics. Once in a while, I'll come up with the lyric first and write the song. But that's a minority of the time. Other times I'll sit down and decide, like, for instance, I was in traffic one day, again, midsummer, and, bumper to bumper, and a Beach Boys song came on the radio. The windows are rolled down. It was a sunny day, and I thought to myself, I need to write a summer song. So as soon as I got home, I said, I'm writing a summer song, and I wrote the song Summer Looks So Good on You, which is one of my singles out right now. And that was one of those that came to me in like 40 minutes. Like, boom, I sat down and thought, I'm writing a summer song, and it came fast. And so I'm fortunate at times I can sit down and actually say, okay, Rich, you feel like writing this today, and I'll do it. And other times it just hits me. And other times, I have one song, High School Can't Last Forever. That another single, that's the other extreme. I came up with the majority of that song in my 20s and finished it about 3 years ago, more than 20 years later.
Wow.
And partly due because the song is a looking back as a reflection of your past self and the idea of hopes and dreams, and that high school, in some ways, and the idea of innocence is manufactured by the individual. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. Innocence is what you want it to be and what you make it to be. And I didn't have the wherewithal to figure that out in my 20s. I had to be much older to kind of have the maturity to figure out. So that song never got finished until I had the maturity to finish it.
Yeah, that high school song you did, I was watching the video, and is that an actual high school you went to, or is that just when you
elementary school of all things? But it substituted well for a high school because I had a great face, and my videographer and I, we loved the front of the building, and we set up in front of the building and took all those shots.
Well, that's like setting up for a movie. You have to scope out places.
Yeah, we scoped out a lot of different places. And the reason why that was so nice is because it was built like circa 1935, and it had that quintessential stereotypical high school front to it. So we went with that.
Yeah, Summer Looks So Good on You. It's like a totally awesome song.
Thank you.
Kid Rock has a song called All Summer Long, which has such a kind of like an interesting riff to it and everything. And I'm thinking, what do you think is the longest song you spent writing? Or are they all like the same time frame?
No, I've got longer ones. I've got more ambitious pieces of music that I'm holding back. as an artist who's sort of first really made his push onto the sort of music scene within the last year and a half. I mean, I've been doing it my whole life, but only the last year and a half when I really seriously made a commitment to go at it have I started to, and I'm introducing my lighter sort of shorter stuff. Because I don't think some of my 6-7 minute songs are going to are not the greatest thing for somebody starting out to introduce themselves with. So I have a lot of ambitious stuff, but I'm saving it for later.
Is it the stanzas, the verses, or the chorus that takes a lot of time?
You mean a long time as in running
chorus,
time,
like,
a long time to
Do
produce?
you have a problem, like when you have a song, you always have to go through the lyrics and change it and make it better, but is the chorus the hardest part of the actual song process?
No, it varies from song to song. I think the hardest part is trying to be honest with yourself and realizing, do I actually have something or not? I mean, I've tossed many things out the door because I've listened to myself, and you got to be really objective and say, Rich, this one doesn't have it. Leave it. There's no hook here. There's nothing pulling you in. There's nothing the listener's really going to be pulled in by. That's the hardest part of the process, is being honest with yourself and saying this one has it or doesn't have it.
And that's very interesting. Yeah. And also, yeah, I like that. Yeah. I wrote, like I mentioned before, I wrote 4 songs.
Yeah, no,
And
cool.
I was young, and there's one song I'm going to have to change the not only the lyrics but the titles, because I know when you talk about, like, you're young and you're writing these songs, and then over time they change. So you're not the way you wrote it at that time frame of your age.
Yeah.
You don't feel the same way, so it doesn't have any. So there's this. People are going to know this when they hear this from me. I wrote a song called "I Wanted Her," and it has something to do with a single guy sitting on a bench, and there's this beautiful blonde that walks by, and the whole song is where I want her now, I want her, and I started singing that in front of my friends and family. They just, I mean, it was a compliment for them to be singing that song all over the place, saying I wanted her, but at the same time, I'm like, no. And also with the riffs and everything, I sat with my friend Bill and I said, let's come up with a song. So he played a few on his acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And when it's something I like, it's okay, that's it. So let's put words to that. And so we ended up just creating a whole song that way. And I'm talking about the 80s here. I was like in my 20s. And then I wrote a song on my own. So it's 4 songs. So I have to get those all done. And, it's been years. Like you're talking about, it took you 20 years to write one song. I got 4 songs that are like gathering dust. I wish I had brought the lyrics and verses with me, because you're going to find this funny. It's written on foolscap. I don't think you can find foolscap anywhere anymore. But it's like you only have to touch it and it just disappears because the paper's so old. But yeah. So I was listening to your song, I Wonder, and I love video. Now I want to tell you, how long a process does it take to do a video like that?
Well, my videographer is actually a super close friend of mine that we've been friends since we were about 10 years old. And he's gotten into it as a hobby, and he's one of these guys that when he gets into something, he does it extremely well. So each video, our first video we did together was Summer Looks So Good on You. The most recent one was I Saw Her Standing There. And each time we do a production, we're getting better and better and better. And he's getting really polished and quite good at it. So in fact, we're meeting tonight to talk about the next video. We'll be shooting a video in a couple of weeks. I have another single coming out in the end of June.
What's that one?
Pardon me?
What's that one called?
I called You're a Nice Guy, But.
Oh, thank you very much. Oh, you're talking about the song. Oh,
the song, yeah. It's okay, Chris. I'll throw that compliment your way, too. Good one.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear it. Let me know when the video's out, then I'll put it in the description.
I will for sure. I'm pretty excited about that. That one's a tongue-in-cheek, fun song that people get a kick out of. And it started a neat story behind it. Maybe I'll save it for. No, I'll tell it now. But
tell me now, because I want to know who that girl was.
Exactly. That's just it. It was written with my band and I at the time, so it's about 10 years old. And we were having a jam session on a Sunday, and the drummer had gone out on a date the night before. And we all knew that. And we said, hey, Jeff, how'd the date go? And he starts laughing. He says, okay, guys, this is what happened. And he explains it's a great date and they had a great time. And then at the end of the night, he says he went to drop her off. And she looked at him and said, Jeff, you're a nice guy, but. And the 3 of us started laughing. He said, oh, you got all the lines after that, didn't you? You're a nice guy, but we should just be friends. Or, I'm not ready for commitment. You're a nice guy, but. And just fill in all what you want. And during that time frame, the 4 of us start laughing away. And I was strumming a riff, and one of the other guys picked up the guitar and started strumming. Before you know it, we're singing this song. We're singing Jeff's experience. And we wrote this song called You're a Nice Guy, but based on all the lines that everybody hears, whether somebody's trying to dump them nicely. Is there any way of being dumped nicely? No, you get dumped. So anyway, it's a tongue-in-cheek, super, super fun song. And we're going to try.
And that's why she ended up in the video, right?
No. There's two good friends of mine. They're going to dump me, and then I'm going to dump another good friend of mine. So, these are friends that, so all of us will be having fun in the video.
Well, that's good. But I know the filming process of a video. I'm sorry for interrupting you there.
That's
but
okay.
It takes a long time to create like a music video.
It can. Like I saw her standing there. We were filming for about 5-6 hours. And I went through that song, I guess, about 15, 16 different times. That's how you get so many multiple angles.
Yeah. That's don't you, when you complete these videos, don't you get sick of singing the song so many times?
You lip sync it. Well, actually, you don't lip sync it. You still, to get the authenticity, you still actually sing the words. Not with the same kind of, I couldn't do that song over and over again at that intensity, but you have to sing the words. And yeah, I do get sick of my own music. There's no question. And I have a hard time listening to it without critiquing it. Lots of people go, Rich, that sounds great. And I'm, I should have done this or fixed that or done more here. And, it's just, it's par for the course. But at some point, you have to let your music go. I mean, if I kept worrying about, I didn't get that right or didn't get this right, I'd never get anything released. So sometimes just to say, okay, there it is. It's good to go. Push it out. Away it goes. Yeah,
I like how I saw her standing there was actually filmed. The intro was interesting. You had a black and white TV. And when I saw that black and white TV, I started laughing because I'm like, that's exact black and white TV we had when we were growing up.
Yeah.
I'd come home, I'd use that to watch the Addams Family, Get Smart. I turn it on. It was great, like sitting there eating crackers, whatever, and it just blew me away. And then you started playing it, and then suddenly you're in the color world again. You went from Pleasantville to Realville.
Yes. Well, it's part of what we wanted to do. It was Rob's idea, the videographer, to sort of go half and half. So we found a Beatles suit on Amazon, which, was kind of a cheap one. You can't see it in the video, but I've got like Scotch tape and pins holding the thing together, but you can't see it in a video. And the idea was, because one of the things that, as I've been branding myself last 2 years, I've been branding myself as Rock N Roll Reimagined, because a lot of my sound is vintage, yet it's not vintage. And the way I produce is even vintage, yet not vintage. I use a lot of sort of replica tricks and producing tactics from the 50s and 60s, and I use a ton of modern ones as well. So we thought, well, a better way to sort of showcase this song is show it half and half, show it in sort of Ed Sullivan-ish type black and white the first half, and then flip it to sort of Rich doing the modern thing for the second half. It works, and I'm quite proud of it, and so is Rob. And we've actually got a couple film festival accolades from it too, which is kind of cool.
Did you have to give the suit back, or do you get to keep it?
I got to keep it.
Ah, nice.
Take it in my closet for next Halloween.
Well, I can imagine them, when you're wearing that Beatles suit and suddenly say, okay, Rich, you got to change into different outfit. Let's do the color part of it.
Well, it was kind of cool. I must admit, putting on a Beatles suit and picking up a Paul McCartney replica bass, and I thought, I feel kind of like it's 1963 again. I was born in the wrong era.
Yeah, it was actually excellent. I wish I was actually in those days, because you didn't have to worry about cell phones.
Yeah.
You just be out there walking, and if you want to get a call, you'd have to stay at home to receive the call. No voicemail. And now it's sort of like you take your phone with you, and you could be canoeing somewhere in a trip somewhere, listening to music. That's technology for you.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. So what is it, Rich, that people would misunderstand about you? Like when they hear a song, do you get them saying, is that part of an experience you went through? Or they hear your song, like for instance, they hear I Wonder, do they say, is that part of an experience you went through? Or
well, it's interesting that you said it, Chris, because a lot of my stuff is personal and a lot of it also isn't. Some of my more personal favorites are personal songs, usually, but they're not always what I would say some of my best material. Sometimes when I'm not feeling a certain way, sometimes your emotions are too thick or you're too involved in the thought and the emotion to get the song proper. Other times I'll sit down and decide I'm going to put myself in this kind of mind state and write a song coming from this perspective. And sometimes I can actually dive in deeper and be more analytical when I'm a half step removed, if that makes any sense. When I'm into the middle of the emotion, if I'm have a heartbreak or I lost a loved one or something, and I'm trying to write songs, they come out very gut wrenching, maybe not quite as thoughtful in some ways. And I mean thoughtful in the traditional sense, like thinking it out fully. Whereas when I come in sort of an analytical, and I'll look at a song and think from all perspective, okay, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who's lost a loved one. What would they be thinking? But they might, and I can almost dive in harder because I don't have the emotions attached to it. So it's interesting. So the songwriting, so some stuff comes out very personal, some isn't, but seems very personal.
I don't know. I would never write a song. Well, I have suffered loss and death, so my songs would have a touch of emotion. I remember when my mom passed, my friend was sort of like, I don't know what it's like. And I said, well, I guess until you lose your own loved one or parents, whatever, you'll know what I'm feeling right now. And then just some years ago, he lost his mother, and now he lost his father. And he says to me, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. So it's not like, for me, I couldn't write a song about the loss of my wife who died because I won't have that same emotion. It's not like, how would such and such feel after his mother died? Well, that's how you feel. But how would I feel if my wife died, or how would I feel if my husband died, or whoever it is tied to it? You would probably have to go to someone who suffered that loss. Say, listen, I want to write a song about the loss of whoever. You've dealt with that pain of loss of your son or whatever. How does it feel? Can I write a song? Did you want to help me write it? Did you help me write it to the point where I can sing it to display the emotion you're feeling? Is that how it goes for you? Or would you just...
I feel extremely fortunate that I can actually project myself into a situation or into an emotion. If I decide I'm going to write a song, I mean, I wrote one song and I haven't released it. I will at some point. This is some of the heavier stuff I wrote. It's called Suicide. Ooh. And it's the thoughts that when you're in those darkest of dark places where you actually contemplate taking your own life. And I mean, it's a scary place to be, and it's a scary place to go. And but I tried to keep the song as a positive. Like, the song ends with "Reach out, you're not alone. You might think you're alone, but you're not." So I feel fortunate. Maybe it's good or bad, I don't know. But I feel fortunate that I can kind of lean over the precipice quite a ways and still be able to pull myself back. Not completely, because I don't want to take away from somebody who truly feels such extreme emotions that, they might consider suicide. I mean, thank goodness I've never gotten to that point, but I try and at least in some way, shape, or form put myself into, as much as I possibly can, into that mindset, more so than anything, to help those people. Not to, and it could be anything. I just use suicide as an example because that's a song I've written, but it might be, I wrote another song about a single mother who's, on her own and trying to make ends meet, runs from abusive father home to an abusive boyfriend, who then gets her pregnant and runs out the door. And, I try and put myself in that situation. How would this woman feel? How would she cope with this? And once again, I try and put a positive spin on it. Like, hey, you're not alone. People are here to help you. So a lot of my music, when I go into those dark places, I try and put something in there that's inspiring and help people, as opposed to just doom and gloom.
That what you're mentioning about the woman who was pregnant and off it, that reminded me of the Eminem song "Stand," because that's exactly how the video is portrayed. I don't know if you've seen that video.
I haven't seen the video, no.
Yeah, that's exactly what you described. Yeah, okay. And they used Dido as the pregnant woman, and they used Eminem as so it's actually talks about the same thing, suicide and but I don't know. I still think that if you write a song or something like that, you have to have experienced it.
Yeah, many people say that. I disagree. I think that if you can, it might not. Yeah, no, I just disagree. I think that you can get yourself into a state where you can somewhat try to understand and get the emotion across. And But I've had other people say exact same thing as you, Chris. I've had a couple of friends challenge me, like, Rich, you can't really put yourself there because you're not experiencing it. No, I'll say, yeah, you're absolutely right. I can get myself as close as possible. And the goal isn't to experience the emotion as much as it is to experience it enough to help others. So I think as musicians, I think there's a certain social responsibility to a musician to provide fun music that just makes you tap your toes, but also provide music that allows people to look at things and to help them with things. I mean, I think that's part of the social responsibility of it all.
I totally agree with you. I would specifically probably go to someone who has suffered that loss and says, let's write a song. You put the lyrics, how you feel, put emotion to it, and I'll sing it and just try to get out there. But yeah, but I agree with you totally 100%. So I know that there's a really tricky part in songs that are really difficult to sing, like being a singer myself. Would you say that? Like, how do you present the song, whether you're in a performance or studio? Is it the same attitude that you bring? Because when you're in your studio, you have your band members and that's it. And maybe production designer, you have the person behind the window who does all the mixing. Or you're in performance and you're performing in front of hundreds, thousands of people. What's your attitude in both? Is it the same? Like, are you more fearful and nervous for?
They're two different beasts. It's a great question, Chris, because anybody that's performed live and recorded, they are two different beasts. The toughest thing is finding that marriage of both of them, because both in the studio, you have to be very precise. You have to get all your notes as best as possible. Your guitars have to be tuned. Your voice has to be tuned. You have to be hitting the notes. When you're playing live, it's more about the energy, the feel, the passion, getting that across. So somewhere along the way, you have to, when you're performing live, the energy and passion are driving you, but you still have to be technical. You still have to make sure guitars are tuned. You still have to make sure you're hitting the right notes. And even more so in the studio, you got to find a way to bring that passion and that energy into the studio production. And that can get tough because, I mean, I often, when I'm singing songs, I do vocal takes. And usually when I'm singing a lead vocal for a song, I get through about 25, 30 takes of the song. And the keeper takes are always up in the 24, 25 range. So it's only after I've been singing for an hour and a half to 2 hours that I'm really banging the song. And that's part of on a rock and roll tune. Other tunes where it's a little bit more mellow, I might be hitting the sweet spot at 10, 11, 12. But I found that, and everybody finds different. I find I got to sing a lot to get myself to find that happy place where precision and energy are both working at the same time.
Well, here's something for you. Like when I was taking vocal lessons, my vocal trainer would sit at a piano and do like notes that and I go, ooh.
Yeah, the scales.
Scales, that's it. Yeah. Now, is that what you do before performance? Or would you say, okay, guys, sorry, I'm late, grab the microphone. Yeah. You know?
I just kind of go.
Really? That's sort of the same way I do it, because whenever I sing, like I like to do the scales, but sometimes like when you play it, the music, your band plays the music, do they play it in a certain octave, or do they do a lower and higher and you try to figure out?
No, I have certain keys. I mean, I write in certain keys that my voice works well in, which usually works. Although sometimes, the way the guitar works is that sometimes certain keys sound better played with certain chord configurations. So sometimes I'll go out of my vocal range a little bit just to accommodate the sound of the guitar because it sounds so cool in that certain key. So but I'll adjust keys according to my vocal range for sure.
Unless you get up in the morning and you're doing what you need to do, and then suddenly you're about to go in and do some practice for a song, and you get, okay, Rich, grab the mic. Say, don't drop the mic now. You grab the mic and you go, and then you find out that you can't sing because like you have a vocal problem or you get laryngitis or whatever. It just suddenly comes upon you. What do you do in that instance?
Well, so far I've been lucky, touch wood. My voice is hung up pretty good. Fortunately enough, when I was younger, I didn't even realize I was doing it right. Only when I took formal vocal lessons in my late teens, early 20s, when I started out singing at 14, 15, I developed the right breathing technique without even meaning to, where I was singing from the diaphragm and singing from the stomach as opposed to singing from the throat.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. I mean, recently I've heard songs of live performances of John Bon Jovi, and the guy sounded terrible. And I think because he's, Gina works a diner all day, I think he's used his throat to get that sound. And unfortunately, I think it's done a number on him. So that's unfortunate because I love Bon Jovi and he's a great singer. But fortunately enough, I found that I was able to, once in a while I have the odd song where I know I'm damaging my vocal cords, and I'll do it sparingly just to get it down on recording, and I'll leave it and I won't touch it again. So most of the time when I sing live, I stick to songs that my voice is very comfortable with or in the ranges that I can do.
Well, yeah, definitely, because you could end up with vocal nodes.
Yeah.
And that's not good because I know Adele stopped singing for a while. Now she's back with a new album called 30, I believe. But back then she did some damage to her voice and she couldn't sing for a while. But Linda Ronstadt, she'll never sing again. She has this neurological disease or something that kind of ended her singing career.
I didn't know that.
You never see her performing again because of that. It's terrible. Like you said about making sure your voice is at a comfortable level. Yeah. It's like otherwise you'd be like, who would it be? Steve Perry or something? Like, just yelling into the thing. And then eventually you're going to get to a microphone and you're going to be like, you can't sing low. Yeah. And it's not a good thing. I had a tenor on just last week, and powerful, where he could have lost his voice box and his ability to sing, but after a chance meeting with somebody, so it's quite a miracle that he's able to sing now. Beautiful voice, excellent tenor.
I watched some of that podcast. It was pretty inspiring. Yeah.
So what about your voice? What vocal range are you?
Oh, gee, I don't even know what. I mean, my favorite key to sing in is probably the key of A major. So C sharp and E is where, up in the E, F sharp, G. That's as high as I can usually get. I can go higher at the odd time if need be. I can click into the falsetto every now and then, but I try and keep A major is where I sit comfortably, sometimes G major.
Well, they told me I was a baritone tenor, so it's like, and I can do tenor and I can do, like, I can.
If you're going to vocal range me, I'm probably a low tenor is what I would say I would be.
Well, I never even heard of a baritone tenor, but that's what my vocal coach said. I'm a baritone tenor. So and we had Ken Levine on as well, who used to be a member of the Canadian Tenors on the podcast about a month or so ago, and he said the same thing. And I could be a baritone tenor, but I'm more either a baritone or a tenor. I could do both.
Yeah, that's sort of where I sit.
Yeah. So for me, there's certain songs that I can't even sing. Sometimes I shelve them until I keep coming back to them, trying to practice. And if I can actually sing that song, that's the day that I either record it or make a copy of it. What about you? If this is a song that you can't sing, do you shelve it or do you just keep trying until you can get it?
Well, that's a great question, Chris, because when I'm picking cover songs to perform live, it's easy because you can find a cover like I Saw Her Standing There. It's right in my vocal range. A lot of Billy Joel sits in my vocal range, and it's easy. But when I write songs, I don't necessarily write for my vocal range. Sometimes I've written songs and go, oh, man, Rich, how the heck are you going to sing this? So I have to find clever ways to either I change the key or I change my approach. Sometimes some of the songs I write don't require me to sing out and give that energetic rock. Sometimes I got to pull my voice back and my energy back and make it a bit softer. So I've had songs that I've literally done a whole session where I've got 25 takes, and 3-4 days later I come back, none of them working, throw them all out, and I start again the next week. And I with another approach. The beauty of being my own producer is that studio time doesn't cost me money. And the best thing I ever did about 10 years ago was setting up sort of my own sort of mini studio in my home. Nice. Because then I wasn't paying for studio time. Because I found when I was paying for studio time, I was cutting corners because I simply didn't have the money to now I can throw something out. If I don't like it, I'll throw it out and start again. And I've often done that with vocal tracks just because, you sing it and you listen to it analytically for a few days or a week and you suddenly say, Rich, that doesn't have it. You're approaching it wrong. I throw it out and I give it a different vocal approach. Yeah,
I can imagine you writing 2 songs you think you can sing and say, you know what? I can't sing this one, but hey, do you know Sting? Okay. Who here knows Elton John? Oh, here, give me this one. Okay, let's start again.
I wish I could do that. I'd be more than happy that other people sing my songs. but I'm
Yeah.
not at that level yet where anybody's attracted to. They're going, hey,
Oh yeah,
Rich,
you never know. You never know. People will probably sing like
I'm working towards it.
you never know. But that's excellent. Yeah. So, what about your band members? How do you go about choosing your band members? Do you have to have like?
Well, I haven't had a band for about 5 or 6 years. We haven't played together. Basically, we were together for about 15 years, and just life circumstances. A couple of guys moved away, and it wasn't a sad breakup thing or anything. We still every now and then get together on a weekend. We drive and meet in one city, have some pizza and a few beers, and play a few songs. But I haven't performed live with a band in about 6 or 7 years now.
Oh,
Actually,
wow.
it's even more than that. So at some point, I'm going to have to put together a band, probably within about a year and a half, depending on how my next single releases go. I'll have to be looking at getting a band together. And
Well, how do you do that? You put out like a call, like an all points bulletin?
I don't know, Chris. That's sort of on the to-do list for later on. I'm not quite sure how I'll approach it yet. I think I'll probably start with my contacts and those who I know and go from there. So I think more importantly than anything is picking the right band members, not necessarily the best musicians, but the right people. I heard an interview, go back to my love for the Beatles, and I read an interview once with John Lennon where he said, each Beatle individually, he says, we were pretty damn good musicians individually, he said, but together we were fantastic. I thought that was a great quote.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So is being in sync with your band or being in sync with someone you sing with important to you?
I think so. Yeah. I don't want to be performing with somebody I don't like. To me, I want to enjoy the person's company. I want us to be doing it together, having fun together, and that'll create a camaraderie on stage. It creates a camaraderie with the music, because music is human, and good music is going to be, in my opinion, going to be played better with a bunch of humans who are getting along well together than it would be if people don't like each other.
What do you think is the reason the Beatles broke up? Like, I can't remember what the history of why do you think some bands break up? Like One Direction wasn't even together that long, but there are bands like Rolling Stones and sorry that Charlie Watts passed that are still together. Like Mick Jagger is still going to be singing when he's like 100 years old.
Yeah.
He may not remember the songs, but he'll be singing them.
Yeah, he'll be out. They'll push him out on stage, and he'll plug him in, and away he goes.
Hey guys, what's that song? Satis something? Like
Satisfaction. Yeah. Well, he'd be. I don't know if he'd remember that. Who knows?
Yeah.
But no, I think it's many different things. I think that for some, particularly a band like the Beatles, they were so much in the spotlight. I think the Get Back, Peter Jackson's Get Back, was eye-opening for a lot of people, because I put a different spin on those whole sessions. And there's one part of that I found particularly entertaining, where Harrison and Lennon are talking about how they're reading a newspaper review or article that talked about how two of them were having fisticuffs with one another, and they both laughed because this hadn't happened, and they both start simulating fighting each other. Oh, look, we're fighting now, and they both got a good laugh at the fact there's some writer saying they're scrapping with each other when this didn't even happen. So it made me realize that they're so under the microscope, these musicians, not just them but any popular musician, that sort of pressure works on a group of people. How could it not? I mean, your everything you do is under the microscope for the general public.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I noticed that you also I think you do play an acoustic guitar. Could you play your music with an acoustic guitar as good as an electric guitar?
Just be a different approach to it. Like, I can do all my songs acoustic. I've been practicing and rehearsing to do a lot of my music as a one-man show. And it would just be done a little differently. That's all. But it'd still be the same song, and I'd still put the same energy into it. Like, I can do I Saw Her Standing There all in acoustic with the solo work and everything in there. It's just it just be different. That's all.
So you prefer playing solo, I guess, with an electric guitar?
No, it depends on the situation. I'm fine whether it be electric, whether acoustic. I have no preference.
Yeah. Your videos are wonderful and your voice is amazing.
Thank you.
What genres are you actually steering towards, or are you just going to stick with rock?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I've defined myself as rock and roll, and this has been one of the things I found completely fascinating and interesting, is since I've done this big push the last 2 years, and it's partly part of the industry and partly human nature. People always say, oh, I have to categorize me. Oh, you sound like such and such, or you sound like this and sound like that. I've been told I sound like so many different artists that it tells me I don't really sound like any one of them. I've been compared to the Clash. I've been compared to the Beatles. I've been compared to Buddy Holly. I've been compared
Wow.
to, you know,
What a
a bunch of
compliment.
country artists and all over the place. Some Green Day at times, and they're all influences. And the thing I found extremely interesting, I remember I had one reviewer early on, and this was quite funny. He was critiquing my music. I found this hilarious. And he came back to me and he said, you know, you really have to get your own style. So singing, he said, you have to get your own style. You sound like somebody. And yet he couldn't tell me who I sounded like. I just said thank you. And I thought to myself, if you can't tell me who I sound like, then don't I sound like Rich? Well, that's what my music is. My music is very familiar, yet it's not. I'm vintage, yet I'm not. I'm rock, yet I'm not. I'm blues, yet I'm not. I'm country, but I'm not. And I'm having a hell of a time actually getting radio airplay because country stations say I'm too rock. Rock says I'm too country. Retro rock says I'm too modern. Modern rock says I'm too retro.
Really?
Blues will say I'm too rock. Rock will say I'm too blues. So I literally sit in the crossroads. My music sits in the crossroads.
Oh my goodness.
So as a result, I've actually defined myself as rock and roll because rock and roll in its infancy was an amalgamation of a whole bunch of different styles of music. So that's the term I grab hold of and I go with it.
Too country,
Oh yeah, I've been told I've been too country. Can you believe that one?
what kind of country music do you sing?
Yeah, the country market's actually been quite receptive to me. So
that's what you should do, become country artists. Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I have a little bit of country in me. There's no question. I have a little bit. I'm a huge Waylon Jennings fan, Vince Gill. You know, I love Johnny Cash. I love these guys. And there's a little bit of that in me.
What do you think of Elvis Costello? Do you like his brand of vocal?
Huge fan of Elvis Costello. Huge fan. One of my favorites. Favorites.
Yeah, me too. How about Sting and the Police?
Always been a big Police fan. Not as much as Costello. But you know, those early Police, Alanis D'Amour, what an amazing album. I mean, absolutely breakthrough album in my opinion. Love that album.
Yeah, a lot of the albums like Los Angeles D'Amour and what's that one? I can't remember the first one. I think it was. It looked like they were calling their albums by Italian names, but apparently when they were asked where they got the name of the albums, it's not Italian, it's not Spanish. It's just something we came up with. It's neither language. Yeah, really. Like Alanis D'Amour doesn't mean anything. Well, D'Amour means love, but in a sort of funny way. But for me, it's like I like classical. I got a lot of classical. I like opera, but I also like Imagine Dragons, Bee Gees, Blue October. Blue October is my favorite band. I don't like some rap, but I sort of like when you listen to rap, you listen to the lyrics. And we had a rapper on a couple of weeks ago, and it's just amazing how it's called lyrical poetry, how they put it together. I guess you would call William Shatner more rap because he doesn't sing, he just speaks it out.
I guess so.
Yeah. So have you ever walked into a venue like a theater and you said, this is not for me? Or did you go head first with butterflies in your stomachs? Did you say, okay, let's get this over with? Like, what's your reaction?
I've had a few get this over with gigs.
Oh, really?
Whenever I've committed to something, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been a few times where, you know, you played to literally an empty room. Nobody showed up. Either they didn't promote it well or something didn't happen. So I've had pennies thrown at me once. That was interesting. Oh yeah. When I was promoting my first Christmas CD prior to the whole iTunes era and everything like that, I was going around to shopping malls doing a one band stage and I you know, the audacity of some people, you think it was cool to throw pennies at me. I mean, I can remember another guy coming up to me and sticking his face right next to my face because he thought I was lip syncing. He's listening, and I practically almost got a guitar neck in his nose.
Oh my goodness, really?
Oh yeah, he came close to getting, you know, Ibanez stuck up his nostrils on that guy. But anyway, so you get all kinds. It's you know.
Now you make me think I know.
Rewarding.
Yeah, now I think I know who you sound like. Brian Adams, basically.
I've gotten that comparison quite a bit. Yeah. And that, you know, that's probably one of the closer, more accurate ones.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah. So can you share an experience with the audience on a situation where things didn't go as planned? Like you imagine that your chosen song would resonate with the audience and it didn't?
Geez, I have a hard time thinking about that. I try and take a positive spin on everything. I mean, like there's one, like I said, there's one gig where we went to this place and we set up, and literally 5 people showed up, and that was it. I mean, that was planned at all, but that we weren't the ones promoting it. So, and there's always little bits and pieces of any song or any gig or rehearsal that doesn't quite go as planned. But there's never been any major gaffes where I've gone, oh my goodness, I hide my head in shame and think that just did not work at all. So thankfully, I haven't had that.
Well, I remember one Christmas, there was a place here called Living Arts Center, and every year we had like a little recital, and so I went there, and I was supposed to sing my Oh Holy Night song. This was Christmas, and I'm walking in there in the venue, and I see hundreds of people, and I'm like, are these people going in to see us? And I go to the other guy beside me who's decked out in a suit as well. He's probably going on after me. I'm like, are these people here for us? And I was just shaking and everything. So I sit down, I'm looking around saying, I can't sing in front of more than 80 people. There's 350 people here. What am I going to do? Look at my hands. But apparently that the people in the audience that showed up, they had family members, children, whatever, who were up there doing their own thing. And then as soon as they're finished, the parents or whatever would get up and collect them and leave.
Yeah.
So by the time me and Joseph were up there, especially when I was up there, there was like 50, 60 people left and I go, oh, I can do this. 60 people, not bad. 300.
Chris, you want more people. You want more.
Yeah, I'm more confident now. So, yeah, definitely. I'm expecting myself to stand in front of 100,000 people one day and saying, Nessun Dorma.
It's a huge rush singing in front of a huge. First time I did live radio, I was scared out of my mind.
Really?
And I overcame that. And since then, the more the merrier is how I look at it. It put more pressure on me, and I love it. I'm one of those weirdos that the bigger the crowd, the more I get into it. The more pressure it is, the more I enjoy it.
Do you think that your singing journey changes every year? Do you think you sound the same as you did 5 years ago? Do you think you can determine the difference?
I think I probably sound more mature. I think just life experience has worked its way into the way I deliver things. I still the same guy. Just I'm delivering things with more conviction because there's just more life experience in me. That's what I'd like to think.
And what did the pandemic do to change your life?
Well, the pandemic, on the eve of the pandemic, I had sort of this life epiphany, you could say. I often joke, and many people get a kick out of this. I hit midlife, and my midlife crisis wasn't getting a convertible and a young girlfriend. It was buying a guitar and recording music. No, but seriously, I had that moment where I was actually looking in the mirror, so that metaphorical mirror that we all look at times and say, where am I going? What am I doing with my life? And I looked at myself and I said, Rich, this has been your passion since you were 14 years old. You're not getting any younger. Why are you not doing this? Like really doing it? And I didn't have an answer for myself. So right then and there, I decided I was going to commit full hard and go hardcore into it. And then that was on the eve of the pandemic. The pandemic struck right after. And then oddly enough, being home all the time, it allowed me to just dive into recording and actually mastering up my production abilities and recording all the new music that you now see on my website and everywhere else.
So you mentioned earlier that you had a production company and you run it from your house?
Yeah, well, I guess it is a company. It's my own business. It's just me, Rich Chambers Music. And yeah, I do all the recording myself. I mix, I engineer, record, mix, master. I do everything myself.
Wow. And is it actually one room, or did you have an extra room built inside of your house or something?
No, people be surprised at how the tricks I use to get certain sounds. For one thing, all the electric guitars can go direct into computer, so I don't have to microphone amplifiers. I've got my vocal booth consists of singing into a mattress. It's a trick that a good friend of mine taught me. And so you can actually isolate your sound. If you sing into the mattress, absorbs your sound. So you actually have completely dry vocals, so you can add all your effects after the fact. Works like a charm. You'd be surprised how well it works. And so I've got a few tricks and techniques I'm doing that most people go, huh? How did you manage that by doing that? So, which I like. I love the challenge.
What software do you use? You use GarageBand or Cubase or something like that?
I use Sonar. And Sonar had some. They got bought out by Gibson, and I don't think they're making their stuff anymore, which is
Oh.
unfortunate. But it's not. It's sort of the B tier. The A tier is stuff like Pro Tools and stuff like that. But I got comfortable with this one software, and I've been using it for about 15 years, and I just know how to work it, so I stick with it.
Could I take something like Pro Tools or GarageBand and create like my own band? So like drums,
Absolutely.
clarinet, whatever, and just
That's
put
what I
them all
do.
together? Yeah.
That's what I do. I mean, every musician on there is either me or I've sampled. I've used live samples from all the different libraries that you can get live sampled drums and pianos and
Yeah.
everything else.
I should be saying the same thing to myself. Chris, why aren't you doing this?
Yes.
Put yourself into it,
I encourage you, Chris. I mean,
Yes.
I once said, and I have a few people that love this saying, and I absolutely love it. I said, the only thing you got to lose by chasing a dream or chasing a passion is regret. And who the hell wants regret anyway?
Yes.
So go for it.
I think, yeah, you've inspired me to do that.
Thank you.
Do you have a large following of fans who follow your every move?
It's starting to get there, which is very heartening. It's been taking a while. It started with just my friends and family, but I've built up to, I now have about almost 6,000 followers on Facebook, 4,000 on Instagram, 3,300 on YouTube. Whereas, a year and a half ago, it was 300, 200, 400, 3,000 followers on Spotify. So I'm slowly building it. It takes a while. There's no question, but I'm definitely building it.
I sing on an app called Smooth Sing, and been doing that since 2015. I got like 22,000 recordings on it.
That's
almost
cool.
6,000 followers.
That's good.
But basically, that's all it is, just on Smooth. I should be able to have a single that's going to be released on Spotify. I should have one on SoundCloud. I should really get down in my 4 songs, choose the one I want to do, and release it or do something with it, or get Pro Tools or Cubase, whatever. My friend Julie is an amazing an artist. I know a few musicians who could help me with that, but like you said, you do it on your own. So I won't have any idea how to do it on my own, because when I was younger, why didn't I used to sing like Sesame Street albums and Jesus Christ Superstar soundtrack and all these soundtracks. I used to sing and perform it on my living room carpet. And I'm thinking, why didn't I just say to myself, I want to be a singer? Why did I say, I wanted to be like a starship captain, or I wanted to be, why didn't I just say, I think I want to be a musician, because I could be singing right now. But now at my age, I feel it's too late, but then it's never really too late.
Never too late.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm traditionally past the age where most people say, rock musicians don't start at your age. And I a couple of years ago, I said, the hell with that. I mean, age is as my song High School That Lasts Forever say, age is just a state of mind, or innocence is just a state of mind.
Yeah.
It's choose it and go for it. That's all there is to it.
Have you faced major decisions in your lives? Like, do you have a fork in the road that resulted in you choosing to take a left turn instead of going right, and other pivotal moments in your life you wish you went left instead of right, up instead of down?
There's been lots of moments. I mean, I think all of us can say we have, a gazillion small pinnacle moments in our lives where you make certain choices where you don't realize the ramifications of it. But I'm happy to say that, at this point in my life, if I walked down the street and a bus got hit by a bus, I have no regrets. I don't have anything where I said I've left this undone or left this unsaid. And a lot of that comes my mind. If you talk about a pinnacle moment or a fork in the road, when my mother passed away, she passed away prematurely. I was only 30 years old. She got hit by a car and she was still quite young. But I can remember when she passed away, myself and my brothers were all as at peace as we could be. But partly why I felt comfortable is because my mother and I had those conversations, those tough conversations about what we wanted, our wishes, our thoughts, our dreams. So I had no doubt my mom, I loved her and she loved me. And there was nothing unsaid. And I walked away from that experience, said, life is fragile. You never know when things are going to happen. Don't leave things unsaid or undone, and don't leave things hanging. In other words, if you had a disagreement with a friend, don't let it hang. If you love somebody, tell them. Don't let it sit there. These are important things. And I've lived my life that way ever since. And it's one of the best moves I've ever done.
Who's your greatest, do it. If it's not your mom, who is it now? Your dad or brother, sister, wife?
it's basically all my friends. I can't pinpoint to be one single person because every friend, I get lots of strength from my brothers, from my sister-in-laws, from my dad and his wife. They give me tons of strength, and I have a whole network of awesome friends that and my boys give me great strength, huge amounts of strength. And that's what friends are for, and friends and family are for.
Yeah, exactly. And these fork in the roads can also reveal a lot about a person and their journey too. And it's sort of like what I have done, like I don't want to reveal too much, but I'm recently divorced, to pick up the phone and call my mom and say this is what happened, or call my dad, can I come and visit because I'm kind of alone, whatever. But in the meantime, it's sort of like I'm at the age where I can say, you know what, it's true. You just wake up in the morning. That's a gift right there, that you wake up.
Yeah, for sure.
And you get a chance to live another day.
It's a gift. And, too many people, I often, sorry, step back a bit. If I say who's my biggest raw person, still my mom. My mom's spirit still is the number one influence in my life as far as promoting me and helping me. But, you bring an interesting point, Chris. I can remember my family and I was with my kids, and we were at the Rockefeller Plaza, and we were at the top of the building, and the sunset was happening. And my son points out to me, and him and I started laughing. We looked, there's about 50 people crowded at the railing, everybody's sticking their phone up to get the sunset. And I had that moment where I thought, who cares about recording the sunset? Put the phone down and freaking live it. Don't record it, live it. And that frustrates me no end, because we're in a society that's forgetting to live moments. And we're too busy recording them or planning for our next one. Like you talked about earlier, technology. Technology is a great thing, but it's a terrible thing if it takes away from actually experience and living moments.
Yeah. So you were mentioning earlier, Rich, about Bruce Springsteen. You actually met him.
No. I just said I saw an interview with him. I wish I'd met
Springsteen. I'm thinking, you did an interview with him. I'm thinking, whoa.
No. Saw an interview with him.
Do you feel that your electric guitar is an extension of your arm as well?
Partly, yes. No question. It feels so natural. I picked that thing up and it just feels like it's plastered to me, like it's a part of me. It's amazing feeling. Amazing feeling.
That's cool. So what about as actual musician? Have you met an actual musician, and what was that like?
I'm trying to think of professional musicians I've met. I mean, I've met lots of musicians, met lots of great musicians that you never even hear of, which is a shame. There's so much talent out there. Mm-hmm. And I'm continually humbled because I've met so many guitar players and singers that are better than me that you've never even heard of. Yeah. And that's an amazing experience. And every time I meet somebody, I try and, learn something from them or pick something from them. And hopefully I can share something and give them something back as well.
Well, that's amazing. So who would your dream duet be? Mine would be Josh Groban, Andre Bocelli. They're my favorite. What about you? Who's your dream duet?
Oh, there's so many. I can go on. Springsteen might be one. There's Adams, McCartney, Vince Gill. Huge. My mom was a huge Vince Gill fan. With her, my mom and I shared that love of Vince Gill. So there's a lot. Harry Connick. I think the guy's amazing. There's tons. Melissa Etheridge, a bunch. Joan Jett, best female rocker. I mean, she started. Her and Melissa Etheridge broke the barrier, in my opinion. They said basically women can rock too. I think they're both awesome.
Do you remember Jefferson Starship and Grace Slick and that song White Rabbit?
Yes, prior to my time, but I do know the song, yeah.
But, prior to auto-tune, like now in auto-tune, I'm not saying you're using auto-tune, but they say like Britney Spears and others use auto-tune to make their voice sound good. Grace Slick does not need auto-tune. There's a video around the internet where they remove the actual White Rabbit music and they just have her singing. It's absolutely stunning. It's beautiful.
It's bang on, yeah.
It's bang on, yeah. So, okay, Mr. Rock and Roll musician, what would you consider be your strength and what would you consider be your weakness?
My strength is probably my guts and passion that I put into the music. That's where I think my strength comes. My weakness is my musicianship. I think my guitar playing is professional level, but I think it's a little weak. My singing is professional level, but I think it's a little weak. But I think I put enough guts and passion and uniqueness into those, so I compensate. I think that most musicians, what you got to do is be honest with what you have and utilize what you have, and don't try and be something you're not. Use what you got and use it well.
Yeah, so I can imagine what your thoughts are on Elvis impersonators then, and people who like to impersonate Michael Jackson. What are your thoughts on those?
I think it's good fun as long as they don't take themselves too seriously. I absolutely love it. I've seen impersonators in Vegas and had so much fun watching them. And as long as they're respectful of who they're impersonating, I think all for it. It's fun.
What's funny because we down here in my area, they have every summer they have like people who get together and they have music and the Canadian musicians. They had a silver Elvis one year. And I'm standing there thinking, this guy's singing Elvis, but he's totally in silver. And I'm thinking the days when Buddy Ebsen used to play, would have been the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz before he got sick because of the lead paint back then. My first thought was, Silver Elvis, you're going to die of cancer. But that paint is non-toxic, actually. But talk about my fear is actually going to still sing, even though I've been singing for years. I still get this kind of, I don't want to call it toxic weakness, but this weakness where, like, remember I told you where I walk in, I see like 300 people. Are they here for us? And realizing that they're here for us, but eventually when it was my time to sing, there was only 80 people left. So they say you can take a weakness and turn it into a strength. It's sort of like at work when they told me that I had to talk and take over for that meeting, whatever. And I said, you know what? I can do this. So I'll talk as if I'm sharing and talking to a guest on my podcast. And I was doing that, I didn't say to my big boss, hey, welcome to the Onstage podcast. I went, welcome. It's nice to see everyone here, listen, tell a joke, whatever. It turned out really well.
That's the right approach, Chris. I would totally agree with that.
I hear you.
It's a great approach.
Yeah. So what else are you passionate about in life besides music? Do you have anything else?
Well, I'm a huge fitness guy. I started running when I was in my late teens, and now fitness is a big part of my life, no question. I'm passionate about writing in general. I've always enjoyed writing fiction. And my family and friends are important to me. There's, nothing in the grand scheme of things, that's what's more important than anything, really. I mean, what's life all about? It's about family and friends, those experiences, those connections you make through our journeys. So that's where, and everything for me comes from those places.
Are you going to have a book published one point in your life?
Well, I actually have one already. It was always a part of that something I'd always wanted to accomplish, and the checklist of life. And I got a small online publisher published my novel about 5-6 years ago. So I don't promote it. I probably should. I don't promote it. I was just happy I got it done. And I'm about 40,000 words into my second novel, but it's been on hiatus since I pushed the music in the last 2 years.
Where can I pick up that novel? I'll be interested.
On Amazon. If you type Rich Chambers, the novel's called 18. It's there to purchase on Amazon.
I'll do that. That's excellent. So in your own words, what does the phrase, what keeps you up at night, mean to you?
What keeps you up at night? Well, it could be good and bad, depending on what's keeping you up. Is it a night something bad that's keeping you from sleeping, or is it something so excited you can't sleep?
Exactly.
So most of the time, what keeps me up at night is I'm too excited. I got too many songs going through my head. I want to get to them. I want to write them. I want to record them. I want to finish them. I want to work on them. And it's hard to shut my mind down. I have a hard time easing myself into sleep because the mind's going, and I have to ease it down and get myself to go to sleep.
Do you sometimes finding yourself going back to the old songs that you wrote and thinking, maybe I should redo this line, add this, change the title? Or do you just say, oh, no, I don't want to do that? Because
yes and no. It's funny you say that because I had a song I wrote when I was 15 called Dream of Love. And I remember revisiting it about 7-8 years ago and thinking, I got to change all the lyrics. I was 15 years old. I wrote all the lyrics. I rewrote them all and realized when I was 15, I actually had it right. So I ended up keeping about 90% of the lyrics I wrote when I was 15 with this song. And I will record this song at some point because I think it's a damn good song. So I've also realized that sometimes you have to respect that moment in your life when you created or wrote something and respect it. It had certain meaning then, and that you have to sort of respect and let it be as a result.
Okay. Well, I'm going to ask you a few more questions, then we'll go to Q&A.
Okay.
We'll end this. I'll ask you, what do you do in your downtime?
Well, fitness is one thing for sure. Yeah. I play hockey once a week. Got a beer league where all my buddies and I go out and pretend that we're NHL stars that we'll never be.
Why not?
I love doing that. Always been a big fan of the movies, so I haven't watched a lot lately because I'm just busy so much on the music stuff. And just being with friends and family, that's important to me.
So, do you get your own gigs, or do you have a manager?
At this point, I'm not playing live, so that's, like I said, I'm going to have to get back into it. I want to get back into it, but right now, all my focus and energy is being put on building up my name first. Because there's no use touring when nobody knows who I am. So I got to get my name, get more recognition before I can start touring.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? How do you feel about veganism?
All for it if that's what a person wants. I respect somebody else's wishes. Not for me, but if somebody wants, by all means.
My friend would say, "Are his guitars made of animal products?" Well, talking about guitars, let's go back to there again just one more time. Do you find that you can play heavier guitars, or do you feel like playing just light guitars?
You mean heavier style?
No, like let's say there's a guitar that you want to play, but it's heavier than the one you played last night or something.
I don't have a problem with that. For me, it's the thickness of the neck. If the guitar weighs a ton on the frame, to me, it has to have the sort of right feel on the neck. Bulky neck guitars, I hate. Too thin, I don't like. I like it somewhere in the middle, which is what most people prefer as well.
Okay, great. So thank you very much for being on a podcast. We really appreciate it. So let's do a final Q&A here.
Okay.
Someone asked, what's your final word for your listeners?
Final word for the listeners. I love that. Whoever wrote that in, thank you for writing that in. My final word that I say over and over again is you got a dream or a passion, you go for it. To me, this is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. It was 2 years ago when I had that metaphorical looked in the metaphorical mirror and said, "Rich, go for it." I have absolutely no regrets. I'm glad I'm doing it. And I had to put together a plan and work it all out. And I got Excel spreadsheets all over the place and tons of files and documents and everything sort of ordered out. But it was the best move I've ever done. It's sort of energized all aspects of my life. I've had people actually tell me, like, "Rich, wow, you seem to have more confidence, more energy, more all these things that are huge positives." So whatever, I mean, to anybody listening or watching, I say, whatever your dream or passion is, don't wait for tomorrow. Do it now. Make it happen.
That's very inspirational. Yeah, I think I might even follow that one.
Good.
And do you write your lyrics on foolscap?
Here's my notepad right here. I always have a notepad ready.
Yes. So even when I do my budgeting,
pen and paper.
Yeah.
Pen and paper.
Yes. I never use financial apps or anything. It's just paper, pen, pencil, and eraser. And
I'll put ideas down on my phone. Don't get me wrong. I use the phone, but pen and paper. I still love pen and paper.
Yes. And also when I do things, I want to make sure I can solve this first.
I never could solve that. Gee, I could get two sides. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. And another one is, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. My compassion, my empathy. Yeah. I'm hoping that somewhere along the way, people find something from my music. It helps them in some way, shape, or form, whether it just be give them a smile in a certain day. So if I can leave that behind, I feel like I've done a good job.
Yeah, because you said that you could die, you'd have no regrets or anything. And
at this point, I'm about as content as anyone could be. I mean, I have the little things here and there that I wish were a little different, but there's no major regrets that I wish I'd done differently. So I feel very at peace and lucky.
Yeah. I don't want to say that if I died, I got a lot of things to do before I do that. I want to be able to go.
So do I, Chris. Yeah. But I'm on the path to do them, and that's what really makes me feel good.
Yeah. You ever seen that tombstone? It says, when you look at it, it says, "I was once where you were, you will be where I am now." You ever seen that? Yeah. Are you imagine having that on your tombstone?
No, I hope not.
Okay, so I won't ask you that one. Do you have any regrets? You said no. Here's one. The last one. This should actually have been one that I should have asked earlier because it doesn't make sense to be stuck in there. I'll ask it anyways. What is your biggest pet peeve, like when it comes to the music industry, or do you think you?
Well, I might offend people on this one, but I don't like that DJs are now considered to be musical artists. I'm sorry. A DJ is not a music artist. A DJ is not the same as a musician. And they're sort of being elevated to the point as so-and-so DJ. Big deal. That's a bit of a pet peeve for me.
That's the first thing. Like I never heard of that. There's like that famous DJ now that makes millions doing his thing. I forget what he's called now. Um, yeah, that's I can't believe that. And actually, that's that they wanted the Texas Hold'em people that play poker on TV. They wanted to make that an Olympic sport to get a gold medal for winning Texas Hold'em. Made no sense. Like, what's the
I
matter
don't,
with
yeah,
them?
I don't know about that, but at least
Yeah,
there's skill involved. I mean, I shouldn't say there isn't skill involved in DJ, but to hold them on the same level as a musician who spend 10,000 hours perfecting an instrument, to put a DJ on the same level, no, I just can't buy it. And
yeah.
like I said, I might offend people on that, but that's how I feel on that one.
I totally agree with you. I don't think that DJs are musicians.
They're
Um,
DJs. They
yeah,
play other people's music. They don't create it themselves. That's
yeah.
how I look at it.
And I don't think Piff the Dragon is a musician either. Just, but no, I really appreciate this. I was actually enough before we leave. I haven't. Do you know who Sophia is?
No.
She's an AI robot that was created by Hanson Robotics,
Okay.
and she's so advanced that you can ask her questions and she'll respond. And I was doing a lot of watching videos on her, and apparently, uh, well, they asked her if she can sing or she likes music, whatever, and I'm like, what if they create robots that like you go, would you go? Except, I mean, when ABBA they created this concert like of holograms, like you could see them when they were young on
Yeah.
stage. You imagine, would you ever go see a band that is completely, the whole band are robots and androids? Like, would you follow an android robot?
Interesting.
Yeah,
I probably would. I mean, if the Android was playing the music, sure.
but then it takes away from human contact with like,
Yes and no. I mean, you were getting into sort of a you know bit of a debate here, philosophical debate of sorts. But I mean, a human has to create that robot, so
that's
it
true.
depends. It's I mean, and this will probably be a serious discussion in about 20 years, so we shouldn't laugh at it.
Exactly, and it's kind of like wow. So thank you very much, Rich, for coming on our show, and I really appreciate that.
Thanks,
And
Chris.
I wish you success, and I hope that we can contact and communicate at some point. I wish you great success and have a good weekend too.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we're going to end this stream, so we just have to say goodbye, Rich.
So long. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, and we're going to just say goodbye, and but just stay there for a second. I want to end this, and then we'll talk after. Hold on.